Good morning, good evening. Hi, everybody. Oh, I love the joys of technology. And this is an impromptu, beautiful interview with the amazing John Styles from WWDB TV. Oh, I got it right. I was worried I was going to get it confused. And those tuning in, hello, I'm Marie, and we are on the Age of Awakening stream that's streaming to Vimeo and to YouTube and our beautiful Facebook. And John is someone that Felicia and I have been talking to over the last month about our show that is coming up. And I just said to John, let's just jump on a chat and go live and talk about what we're excited about, and might as well interview you at the same time. So John, tell us a little bit about, who you are for those that are listening in, and obviously what inspired you to go down this path and create WWDB TV.
Okay, well, how much time do we have?
We've got plenty of time.
Okay. Yeah, it's an interesting story. I basically have been in the construction industry pretty much all of my life. Here in Las Vegas, I am in Las Vegas, and about 10 years ago, the construction industry pretty much just flattened out. And I was old enough at the time, I thought, well, you know what, I'm just going to retire. I'll start collecting my Social Security, play around, and if the industry comes back, great, I'll go back to work. If not, so what? And I had always been into photography. I was lucky enough to work for companies like Marriott, where I would go all over the country, building resorts and things like that. And I always took my camera. And so when I retired, I thought, you know what, I'm going to go get a video camera, see what I can do with that, and just kind of, I've taken the stills about as far as I think I can. Let me try this. So I had some friends that were performers here in Vegas. They had a three-piece band and they were performing out at Mandalay Bay. And I asked them if I could come out and film some of their shows so I could figure out how to do this and how it all works. So I was doing that for almost a month, and the leader of the group, Bill, called me one day and he said, John, there's a radio show here in town and they want somebody to come out and videotape their show and upload it to YouTube for them. You think you'd want to do that? I thought, well, yeah, that'd be fun. Might as well get paid to do what I'm, learning to do. So I went and met them and they hired me on the spot. And so Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., I was in the studio filming their show. And if you've ever been in a radio studio, it's not very big. So I was over in the corner and I had about this much room, and I was doing that for a little while. One of the other shows came in. They were a guest on that show, and they saw what I was doing and they said, well, hey, that's cool. We want to do that too. And that's when I kind of decided, you know what? I'm going to make this a thing. I'm going to create an internet TV station for people like myself and others that can't afford to go to the big guys, NBCs, and they have a message that they want to get out there. And so I started doing that. I got more and more clients. I started out in a little room about the size of the room I'm in right now, had one camera, and then as I grew and got more cameras and a bigger studio and everything. I didn't know how to do any of this when I started. I mean, nothing. I had no idea, how to hook up a soundboard, and how to do all this. So everything that I learned from YouTube videos. So there is so much information out there that if you really are serious about doing whatever it is that you want to do, I jokingly say that I'm going to write a book called Never Give Up on Your Stupid, Stupid Dreams.
I love it.
And it just, one thing led to another, and it's not a job. I mean, I retired 10 years ago, and I've never worked harder. But it's a passion. I love what I'm doing. And one of my partners, Judy Morio, um, and this is how we met. Actually, you were a guest on
Yes,
one of her shows.
that's
What's
it.
your
Yeah.
story? And I think I was very fortunate because I think in the last 2 months or so, we probably interviewed about 25 to 30 women from Thrive, the Women of Thrive. And I was actually fascinated. I'm always in the back just pushing the buttons and all that stuff. But, and these women were from all over the world, including
Mm.
yourself. And by the way, I love Felicia's nickname. I think that is,
Please.
yeah, I think that's brilliant. I love that. So tell her I said that. Um, but I was kind of uplifted. Um, I guess it gave me hope. I mean, with
Mm.
everything that's going on in the world right now and in our country especially, um, it can be quite depressing. But
Mm.
to see the power of what you women are doing worldwide
Mm.
um, gives me some hope. And
Oh,
when you and I started talking, and I saw the first pilot that you sent me, and I thought, yeah, this is great. This is something that we need to have on our platform because we have other shows that, some of the shows are just ego driven. People want to be in front of the camera. But we have some really good shows, and I think one of them you saw, the 184 days,
yeah, the
uh,
teacher one.
and that actually comes from their contract is 184 days long. That's where
Yeah,
that came from.
yeah.
And then we have another show called The Gift of Giving, where it's a weekly show, and we interview the heads of private nonprofits and 501c3s in Nevada.
Mm.
That are doing good things, and so we're trying to give back to the community, and it's just like I say, it's not a job. It's I love what I do. I get to meet some awesome people, have a lot of fun doing it, and anytime you can get into that kind of a situation is just a blessing.
Oh,
So anyway,
totally.
that's my story, and I'm sticking
I
to
love
it.
it. I love it. I love it, John. And like these beautiful threads, like I think, yeah, through Women Thrive, that's where I met Judy and
Right,
the beautiful founder Raimonda, who has
right,
been on the show as well. These pieces of connecting people and having platforms like your platform, like the
right,
summit space, like what we're doing with Felicia and I with Awakening Academy and the different podcast options and summits. It's creating those spaces to share story, and you've done that with your platform, and it has such an amazing reach. And that vision of like the little guys that have like big hearts, that have big stories, and it's
right,
like this is giving the power back to the people. And I interviewed Judy on my first podcast series, and I've got two now. So Awakening, this one is one, and then
right,
High Vibe Chats, which is like a little half an hour segment. And that just started with the passion, like yourself, where it's like, I love talking to people. I love talking to women. Originally it was with mums, and then it expanded to other women. And it was just like, let's talk about people's lives. And then with Flea and I, we then developed our podcast here, which is like an hour long series or talk
right.
show. And then it evolved into,
Which was
you.
which was pretty deep. I thought that what you guys did was pretty deep. I
Mm.
don't want to give anything away. I want to, and it's going to premiere on April the 8th. And we kind of decided on that day because here in this country, and I don't know if it's the 8th or the 9th in your country, where we're going to have the solar eclipse.
Yeah.
And I thought
Awesome.
that since it is a women's group, the women have always been in some way associated with the moon. And with the
Yeah.
moon eclipsing the sun, I thought that would be a great day to put this out there. So,
Ah, perfectly timed. It's amazing. And
and if
we're
anybody's offended by that, please send your cards and letters to.
I don't think so. And like,
No.
we talk about a whole array of different things. Part of our story is the real, parts of growing up, and we share parts of the hard things. But also, like, the whole point of awakening is it's the old Latin term which means to awaken. And that can happen in many different ways for people, whether it's through the body, whether it's through experiences and trauma, whether it is through divine intervention. People have such a depth to them, and their truth is their truth. And when we share people's experiences, it just opens us up to the depth of the human experience and the human spirit, and just opens up that little bit more curiosity of, like, we on Awakening Academy, we have men and women, that share their stories. Like, I've got an amazing friend who's in Brazil, but he's a shaman, but he's also a scientist, and he taps into the world of the shamanic wisdom, power animals, different guides that come in, and has a science background and can create different products and ways of creating devices to help the human body. And like, people are just incredible. And I suppose this is why you love showcasing different stories and different shows. And so,
Well,
yeah.
it kind of exemplifies or magnifies the fact that although most of us have had a lot of different experiences from each other, but there are so many experiences that we have all shared.
Yes.
We've all been happy, we've all been sad, we've all been depressed, we've all been up, we've all been down, and I think that kind of thing helps bring us back together, which is where we need to be. I mean, we've been, divided and separated and kind of all of us in our own little world. And I think we need to get more of that connection back. And I think that's what you guys are doing. And I think that's what was so attractive to me in the beginning when you and when you approached me and said, "Hey, you wanted to do this," and I go, "Yeah." It's like it's a gift. It's something that I've never had to go out and beat the bushes for shows or for I mean, I did in the beginning, but because I started out doing it for the money. Well, I can make a few bucks, and once I got going, it was like, well, wait a minute, that's the wrong approach. Put something out there that people want to see or is going to have some benefit for all of us. And so anyway, yeah, that's what makes it fun. So
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that before we jumped on, you're like, let's have some fun. And like, I'm smiling. Like, I love talking to people, and I love just like hearing, what inspires them. And I love that little piece of, like, most of us, think about the stresses of life and having to pay the bills. And, even my beautiful husband and I were talking about, finances and things. And we're like, well, let's come back to what actually excites us, what actually is our passion. And, you mentioned before in the audio that you love this work behind
yeah,
me, which is Sean's work. And through Project Zen, it's like,
and that's the new piece right above your head, is it not?
yeah,
Yeah,
that's it. He just reframed it. Originally it was white, but something about the white, it looks beautiful, but I think I think it's just got this more appeal now with the black for some reason, and people like the black frames.
yeah,
But doing the things that you love, whether it's creative, whether it's talking to people, whether it's being out in community, whether it's just being in your garden, and with nature, or your children, whatever it is that makes your heart feel alive, like, let's do more of that.
yeah,
And this,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so how many shows, like, I know you've been running, is it about 8 years from memory? How long have you been running?
I actually started, yes. Technically, my first show, the radio show, was about 10 years ago. I think it'll be 11 years in July.
Yeah, wow.
And and I grew up there. But the last 6 years is when I really started to get rolling. And then the pandemic hit, which shut me down. I mean, literally
Mm,
closed my doors for 4 months, and
wow.
I was ready to give it up, and just say, I'm done.
Mm,
Um, but the studio that I was renting, I still had almost 6 or 7 months left on the lease, and I thought, well, I got to pay the lease. I might as well open back up. And I was gratified that the people that were with me before I closed down came back.
yeah.
Not all at once, but slowly but surely they all started coming back, and it just kind of grew from there. I sound like sometimes I sound like a salesman or something, but it's just I'm passionate about what I'm doing, and I love it.
Yeah.
And it's I think people get tired of hearing me talk about it sometimes. So.
Oh, well, I'm enjoying it at the moment. And this piece about sales, when you're passionate about it, it doesn't come across that way because you can feel it. And it's just this natural, authentic piece about when we show up for ourselves, when we have spaces like this and talk about it openly, that perception of what is sales is actually authenticity, and people can feel that the mission of you wanting to connect more people and give a voice and give another platform. And it's been interesting even in my own journey to notice when people throw selling at me, or when people like force things on you and it just feels yucky.
Yeah.
And also noticing, well, when I've tried that, I didn't like it. Is there another way? And how we come back to it from that place of passion, then it's not salesy. It's just you. And I think because you had that wealth of experience and I'd seen you working with Judy and I'd started like looking at what other things you were doing, it was like, oh, I'm just going to ask him and go, hey, what
Yeah.
if we did this? And let's see what evolves from there. And I think that piece, not only sharing stories of Felicia and I, but guests that we want to have on, but there's like another vision of like opening it up to the youth. And who knows where this show could go potentially, where,
I see I see almost endless possibilities for you two. You're starting out. The first show I think is going to be surprise is not the right word. Maybe eye opening for a lot of people. Um, Flea gets into some stuff in that show that just kind
yeah,
of like whoa, you know,
yeah.
and I have another show that is called Permission Mission, and the woman who hosts the show, her basic premise is um, we should be free and we should have permission to talk about our mortality. We're
Yes.
all going to die, and we should talk about it. We've been taught, from the time we were children, oh, we don't talk about that. No, we don't want to talk about it.
Mm.
And a couple of weeks ago, she had her two grown daughters on, and she had talked in the past about her experiences with trying, because she lost two brothers at an early age, and her father, and so she had been trying to talk to her own children about this, and
Mm.
they didn't really want to have anything to do with it. No, we're not talking about that. Um, and they finally came around, and she had her two daughters on that show, and it just about had me in tears. I
Mm.
mean, the talking about their personal experiences, and how what their mother was doing and saying had affected them in a positive way, and I could tell that she had not heard this before,
Yeah.
and you could see her. So anyway, it's stuff like that they're just those magic moments that you see go out there, and it's not something that you planned or tried to create. It would just spontaneously, exploded, and it's like wow. And
Yeah.
that's the fun part. And I think that that's what you
Yeah.
and Flea are experiencing now, is seeing that come together. And when you finished that show, that pilot that you did, how did you feel?
Ah, it I because we've been talking about it for ages, like,
Right.
talking about the potentials and the possibilities. And then it's like, okay, the right time will come. So for me, it felt like a beginning, like this is the next step. Um, and then there's been lots of pieces of old parts of our lives and old parts of ourselves that have been ending because we're getting ready for this next phase of what's coming. So I felt really good about it, and I know she did too. And then we got excited about editing it together, um and yeah, I mean, you can only put so much in an hour, but
Yeah, I know.
this is the beauty about it, because you can just dive deeper and sharing our stories, and we love talking to other people too, but just having that combination of, okay, well, what could this look like? It could be maybe one week it's just us, and alternating weeks we have a guest on, and inviting that conversation, those permission pieces, as you said, to go to those places, because people, when they feel the hearts and the experience of others, it does blow you away, and just go, wow, actually, I've had a very good life, or it puts another perspective, like, oh, wow, this person has experienced this. Maybe I shouldn't complain so much,
Yeah.
And the depth, and this is why we're like the depth of the human experience, because I'm just in awe of Felicia because of her resilience, and she only
Yeah.
just touched the surface.
Yeah.
Surface.
And I thought that she did that. She handled it quite well. And for those of you that are watching now, these are teasers. These are to trick you into getting to it. And once you watch this, you'll be glad you did. And I'm really excited to see more from you guys. I can't wait to see what's coming up next. And it's just, the whole thing is exciting, and it's I experience this over and over and over every time I get a new show. It's like in the beginning, the first couple of shows are a little bit meh, but then we get into our stride, and then I see the hosts really, they get it. That moment when they realize, okay, I got this. This is what we're gonna do, and it's fun. And you guys already have that, so it was well done. You did a good job putting it together, and I'm going to be very proud to have that on our platform. So,
Oh, so excited!
And for those people on this side that are watching, we need to let them know that you are from Australia,
Yes.
right?
Yes,
And
that's
you
right.
from Brisbane, is that not correct?
Yeah, Brisbane. Oh, well, we're in Ipswich. We're going to claim our Ipswich is next to Brisbane, so it's
Okay.
a little bit off away, but Brisbane's probably the most well-known part of the Queensland area
Yeah.
in Australia. But yeah, we're excited to just be connecting around the world. I mean, something that we started doing last year that evolved into then this beautiful platform and show was, like, we started doing not only a podcast, but we started doing summits as well. And so we did our first global summit last year with, I think, 26 people from 8 countries. And this year we've got a summit in April. So lots of things happening in April, from this show, Awakening Odyssey, to then our summit. We've got 46 speakers from 12 countries this year.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, and so that beautiful summit is called Awakening Seeking Sovereign Souls. So these questions we ask
I
in our
love
show.
that, sovereign souls.
Yes.
That's a great catchphrase there. I love that.
Yeah. And it's like, if you're seeking more, if you're questioning what's happening in your life, even in the show Awakening Odyssey, this quest, this thirst of, like, understanding yourself, understanding through other people's stories, by listening, through inspiration, and surrounding yourself with people that may just spark a seed of thought, or maybe someone that you're like, oh, I didn't see it that way before, inviting that conversation, those permission pieces. And this is like this whole thread of what Awakening Academy is about, with all the pieces. So, I mean, part of me was like, oh, well, what if our show eventually we could stream our summits to, live
Yeah.
to people? Who knows what can go from there, but it's very, very exciting.
Well, I have camera will travel. So,
Oh, amazing.
um,
And
and go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, no, I was going to say, I mean, we've had these big visions of like, we're starting here, taking the baby steps, but it's like also the pieces of, well, let's eventually we could take it to this country here, or we could come and visit you, John, and Judy as well. If Judy's listening back on the replay, we could, this could be something that could evolve into something beautiful and immersive. And I have visions of big arenas and street. I don't know. I'm going to say it now. I'm going to be Flea and I are going to be the next Oprah slash female versions of Tony Robbins.
Okay. Speaking of
Putting it out
Tony,
there.
speaking of Tony Robbins, I have done his firewalk
Ah,
back in
amazing.
the about mid '80s, I think it was. Yeah, that was an experience. So yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I love talking to people from Australia because I always feel like I'm talking to people in the future because it's tomorrow there, right? So you're a day ahead of us, and so Australia's on my bucket list. I am going to get down there one of these days. I do have friends in Melbourne, but if you don't mind, can I ask you a few questions about
Yeah. Go
Australia
for
and
it.
being in
Let's
Australia?
go.
So is it actually true that most of the animals and wildlife in Australia are out to kill you? I mean, you have giant
Oh, look.
spiders and snakes and
There are a lot of dangerous animals, but there are also some very unique ones depending on where you go. We do have big spiders, like we do have huntsmen and they're harmless, but a lot of
right,
people get scared of them. We also have redback spiders, which are tiny, but they can be deadly as well. Lots of snakes, like where I live, we're on some bushland property, so we get red belly black snakes, brown snake, and these are all venomous snakes. But we also get beautiful birds, like the garden that I have. There were beautiful willy wagtails, finches, kookaburras, a lot of native birds. We've got possums. Kangaroos are in my backyard. Like,
really,
uh,
that's awesome. Yeah,
yeah, not so much in the city, but where I am, they do jump across. And before we had fencing up, they would come into our yard and drink from our pond and then go off. So, and we have platypuses down because we've got a creek as well. So I'm very blessed to be in an area that is still suburban but also has nature. So we've
right.
got a lot of those. We've got koalas, we've got echidnas that are wild. A
What
whole
is it?
heap
What
of
is echidna?
echidna is it's got imagine like a porcupine type of thing,
Right,
but it's a marsupial. So echidna's got the spikes on
right.
its back and can roll up, but they also have a pouch, so they have their babies alive in their pouch,
Wow.
like the kangaroos. So we've got so many amazing animals here. Some are deadly, um, but some are also very cute and beautiful too. So
Right.
yeah.
I used to raise. I had a military macaw, a couple of cockatoos, and things like that. So, and you have a quite a wild bird population there in Australia, do you not?
Yeah, yeah, we've definitely got the cockatoos, the galahs. There's also beautiful black cockatoos as well that live in certain parts. Um, so yeah, there's a whole array. So when you come down, John, wherever you go, I'm sure you will see like a whole array of amazing creatures. And if anyone
My
overseas,
my problem is anytime I go anywhere and I'm trying to get away from that, wean myself away from it, is I'm always taking my camera. And so, I got to film everything. I got to get this on camera. And I'm trying not to do that as much anymore because then you actually miss the experience. So,
yeah.
and whoever you're with, if you're walking and oh, there he is, he stopped again, taking a picture. Come on, John, you know. But okay, so one more thing about Australia, and I have had the opportunity to partake of this. Is Vegemite as big a deal in Australia as we are led to believe?
Yeah, it's a thing here. Like, I'm half Filipino, so I never really liked it growing up. But my daughter, who's a little redhead, loves
I
it.
I saw, yeah.
Uh, and yeah, it's definitely an acquired taste if you haven't had it before. I don't
Right.
mind it with it like toasted with some cheese on it. Um, but yeah, if you come down under, then it is a thing. It's very unique. And if you're not used to it, it may be very like a bittery type of taste. But
Yeah.
yeah,
It's
thing.
very intense. Very
It is.
intense. Yeah.
It
And
is. It
and
is.
whenever I've gone anywhere, I want to experience what uh, the local people experience. I don't want to
Mm,
go and be the American tourist. I want to go see, okay, well, what do you do every day? What do you eat? How do and not go to the
mm.
local McDonald's, or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
But anyway, so
Yeah, it's beautiful because we are such a like even though Australia compared to other countries is like small, it's so vast and so such an array of amazing people as well because we're also called like a melting pot because of all of the different ethnicities, backgrounds, our history even, so it is very multicultural. But if you
right.
also dive into some of our indigenous culture as well, with our First Nations peoples,
That's what I think
it's
is fascinating about that
yeah,
country.
yeah.
From everything I've read or seen or experienced, it's I want to say it's like our American Indian, but they seem to be. This is just my perception. Um, they seem to be a more of a natural, spiritual kind of race of people that
Mm.
appreciate the land and what not so much. I don't know how to explain that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, I definitely do. I mean, if you look at our like the Australian First Nations peoples, it's the oldest living practicing culture. It's over 60,000 years old. When
Wow, I
you
did
look
not know
at
that.
yeah, so going probably even further back, but if we think about we're in the year 2024,
Right,
there is a lot of ancient wisdom in the people, in the land, and I suppose like any place that have had indigenous peoples that have gone through trauma and being displaced and going through the things that history has done to indigenous peoples all over the world, it's interesting to tap back in to the wisdom. And from what I've noticed in working with First Nations peoples, and this is I suppose the change in the language, Indigenous, Aboriginal, in school settings we refer to them in First Nations because they are one of the First Nations peoples here in Australia, and there are First Nations peoples in other countries as well. But
right,
the wisdom that they have and how they worked with the land, there's this beautiful book called Dark Emu by Bruce Pascoe, and it dives into this really divine intelligence of how they would farm and the permaculture before it was colonized, and working with the land, working with the way that the water would flow. And I'm sure this is very similar to other tribes and cultures in different times
right.
and places. But being able to have a yarn, they call it, let's have a yarn and have a talk, and I do chat with different custodians of the land, um, elders. They do prefer to be called elders if they are of an older generation, and I still do some work in doing relief teaching, working in Indigenous settings. Like where I live is very modern, but there is a particular school nearby that is definitely for our First Nations, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander families. And there are still hardships, like humanity in general. There are still traumas, there's still intergenerational trauma, there is still people and families dealing, with relationship breakdown, with addiction, with alcohol abuse. And you see it in the youth. You see these pieces, not only just in those communities, but just around the world in
Yeah.
general. And so, like, part of the reason why Flea and I have loved creating this platform is to bring this sense of awareness back to our sovereignty as an individual being, our soul, because we all got the same color blood. We've
Yep.
all we all bleed red. We've all got hearts. No matter what your race, no matter what your background, no matter what your belief systems, it's like, how can we come back and honor each other as human beings, as individuals, and all the other stuff that just gets to flavor our identity, flavor who we are, and let's talk about that and embrace that and have conversations that can be difficult and challenging, but just agree to disagree sometimes, or just have a different lens, or you can be on the same wavelength and go, yes, 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 I love
You
all of
you mentioned earlier about the First Nation and how they work the land, and you said
this.
you were sure people in other parts of the world did too. And I think that that's what's fascinating, is that I mean, Australia is like, it's a big old island. I mean, for all intents and purposes, and not like Europe, where you have pockets of people that in a very large place. But then you have the British Isles, and it's just, people have developed, human beings have developed similar skills all over the planet. With no contact, like you say, nobody taught them how to do this. Nobody said, okay, well, if you dig a hole here and the water will flow in here, and then you put this, they learned it themselves. And the fact that someone over here can learn it, and someone over here is learning the same thing, maybe not at the same time, but maybe it is aliens. So.
Yeah, yeah, and I love being able to talk about that as well, because we all come from stardust,
Yep,
and when we can notice what's happening here on the land, but also notice what's happening in our everyday life, and also notice what's happening in nature, and also what's happening on a planetary level and beyond. It's like, let's open our hearts and our minds to, well, what else is there? If anything is possible, if we could just break that glass ceiling and go, well, what if everything we imagined, everything we thought of could come into fruition? Like, imagine a world, and this is where Flea and I love tapping into, because, like you said, there's, with this show, is endless possibilities. And
yep,
what if life could have endless possibilities? And how do we notice the limiting beliefs and limiting patterns and the past stories, and just accept that for what it is, and be able to go, well, I can choose differently. I can be inspired by what you're doing, John, and what over here Flea is doing, what this person is doing, and I can make my own decision and choice to
yep,
then lead my life from that place of passion, from that place in your heart. Because I want my daughter to see me doing this and see her father doing this, and seeing, more people leading from this place and speaking their truth and their story, because I want her to inherit a world that is more open-hearted,
yes.
that can tap into different tribes and cultures and ways of understanding, and she gets to make her own choice about how she wants to lead her life, you know?
And I think when you stop and think about it for a moment, that what we see and what we hear and what we feel is such a small, narrow spectrum of what's really out there. I mean, the different light waves that we can see, and the ones that we can't see, and the sounds that we can't hear, and it just it we are so confined, I guess is the word, or restricted is a better word. We're so restricted in
Mm.
how we experience everything in our life. I mean, and we're not really experiencing it, because when we touch something, when we touch our desk or a piece of wood or piece of metal, that's our nerves are sending a signal to our brain saying, well, this is what we think this is, and it's not that we are not actually getting to experience whatever that thing is. It's our perception of what it is. And that's
Wow.
where I think that we need to expand that perception
Yeah.
into larger and larger circles. So
Yeah. And this
anyway,
is what your platform does. This is what WWDB. I'm not gonna stuff it up. TV. That's what it does. It expands it
if it
because
if it makes it if it makes it easier, you can think of worldwide digital broadcasting TV. That's
I
what the
like that.
WWDB
Yeah,
stands
yeah.
for. Yeah.
I was
So
about to say because I read it somewhere, but
yeah.
sometimes I get tongue tied. But yeah,
Well,
that
I've
beautiful.
been practicing it for 10 years, so it's WWDB TV. And when I first got it, people would say, "Man, that's tough to say. That's kind of say, well, just keep practicing, you'll get it."
Yeah, yeah. Before you jumped on, I was like, okay, I better practice saying it because I was mixing the B and the D, but I haven't stuffed it up yet, so that's good. Oh,
We'll make you
beautiful.
an official ambassador of WWDB TV.
Yeah, sounds good. I'm gonna put that in a tongue twister now for my daughter and
Okay.
I to do later. Should be fun. But
Sorry.
oh, bit of fun. I love a bit of Adam's Family.
I oh yeah. Listen, I I was so in love with Carolyn Jones. Um, she was just okay. Sorry, I'm
No,
I'm
that's
I'm
okay.
um, it, it,
We will we will jump
I'm
off shortly.
this
We've
is this
spoken for
is
40 minutes.
I know this is an exclusive for you. Okay,
It
for
is an
your audience.
exclusive.
You're about to find out something that no one else knows yet. Um,
Oh, this is exciting.
and I'm trying to decide whether I should tell you or not. No. So for the last few years, I have had an
Oh, the
idea,
idea is saying,
a, a, a concept for a movie.
wow.
And I've been kind of playing with it in my head, and because it's basically a 60s rock and roll movie, is basically what it's going to be. I don't know if you're familiar with a group called the Lovin' Spoonful. Um,
No, but
okay,
I do
they're
love
back
the
in
60s.
back in the 60s, yeah. Um, And there's a couple of songs of theirs that I thought, God, this would make a great movie. And so I've been kind of writing it in my head and figuring out the plot and the characters. And there are a few independent filmmakers here in Las Vegas that I work with occasionally. They come in and use the studio for some things. Um, and so I called them today and I told them, okay, I've got this idea. I want to sit down with you and I want to start developing this. And these guys are brilliant. They are going to. Their company is called Rising Again Productions.
Wow.
They've done 3 films so far. They write, direct, they film it, they edit it, they do everything, and they've done such an amazing job and they're just young kids.
Yeah.
Probably late 20s, early 30s at the most. And I can't wait to see what they're going to do. They're just, I mean, I'm sure you've run into those people in your life where you say, I need to watch this person because
Yeah.
they are going to be doing something. So I'm gonna try to get them to see if they'll help me put this together. And because I'm crap at writing dialogue. He said hi, she said hi.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
these guys I think could do this justice. And
Oh, amazing. Oh, I
anyway,
love that. I love that creative spark,
yeah.
when we have ideas and then we action it, like me asking you, and then now you asking that. Like, this is a beautiful ripple effect of when
Well,
we
and
actually,
I might fall completely on my face,
yeah.
but that's
If
the
you,
risk
if you
I'm
don't know,
willing to
you,
take
yeah.
because
Yeah.
it may, I mean, it may not win an Oscar or anything, but it might be something that someone sees and go, "Oh, that was cool,"
Yeah.
and
Exactly.
that's it. So
Exactly.
I know you probably have stuff to do, and it's well past my bedtime almost. So
Oh, beautiful. Well, it has been so wonderful to have you on, John, and
Oh, thank
just
you.
to go down.
I've just been really jazzed, and like I said, I can't wait to see your next show, and we'll get her done. I know. I don't remember if I asked both you and Flea if I could have a headshot of each of you and just
Oh, yes.
a short paragraph bio for each one, so I can
Yeah.
set up the our your page on our website and for the
Amazing.
Roku channel. So
Yay.
if I
I
can get that
will
in the
send
next
that
couple
through if
days.
I will double check because I do think you asked me and maybe I did or didn't, but I will send that
Well,
through.
I couldn't
And
remember if I asked you and you sent it, and I just can't find it now.
it's all right. I'll send it. I'll send it for both
That'd
of
be
us.
great.
And so excited about the Roku. And those in Australia who may not know what that is, do you want to just give everyone just a quick little brief? Because I didn't know what it was until you
What,
told me
Roku?
about it.
Oh.
Yeah.
So, is Roku available to you in Australia?
I think it is. I definitely
Okay.
think it is.
I mean, it's just a little device that you plug into your TV. I mean, you can't get it on your computer, but it's like Amazon Fire Stick or anything like that. So like so you could get Amazon TV, but Roku is just a platform like Netflix in a sense that you can watch different programming, and they have a plethora of small independent stations like myself, and so there's a lot of good stuff on
Amazing.
there. And the initial investment, which might be 25 or 30 or $40 American, that's the only price you pay.
Yeah.
So, it's
Yeah.
like our channel, our shows are all free. There's no, we don't try to sell you anything. There's no subscription fees or anything like that. You just go to the Roku platform, search for WWDB TV, and then download that, and then there you are. And I have about 40 or 45 music videos that I put together on there too, called Double Exposure, where I've taken. Do you know who Fred Astaire is?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Jennifer
Um,
Rogers.
so I have a clip of Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers in a movie dancing to one of today's songs. And so
Fun.
I've done a bunch of those with just different artists and different random dancers that I found on the YouTube or on the internet. So, and that's a lot of
Amazing.
fun. Yeah. So,
Oh,
anyway,
so much fun. So Roku is one platform. You obviously stream to Facebook, to YouTube, and
right.
a whole
Yeah.
array of different platforms.
We have our website, which is www.dbtv.com. All the shows are on there. Our YouTube channel, which is also WWDB our Facebook page. I have two Facebook pages. I have four Facebook pages. But I just created a new WWDB TV Las Vegas page.
I saw that one. Yeah.
Yeah, I just created that here a couple of days ago because the other page is getting old, and I was having some problems with it on the streaming. So I just decided I'll make a new one. So anyway, and that's it. And thank you for this opportunity. I have been I'm very fortunate to have met you and Flea and some of the other women in Thrive. I just think that you guys are going to kick ass and take names. I'm just, I'm. It's about damn time.
Oh, I
you know.
love that. Oh, well, thank you, John. If anyone's listening and you're like inspired and want to connect with John, find him on Facebook, find him on the website. I will tag it in here as well because it's going
And
live.
my email address is John JOHN at
Amazing. Yeah, feel
www.dbtv.com.
free to connect with John.
And you
At
did
it,
record this,
it is
right?
recording and streaming
Okay, great.
live. So I will tag you in it.
Okay.
And
And if you'll send me the copy or send it to me or whatever, I can download it and I'll put it on all of our social media as
sounds
well.
good. I love it. I love
And
how we talk
thank you again.
shop. Thanks, John. Bye. Bye,
Okay.
everybody.
Bye bye.